Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we assemble to explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 6th season, we are looking at the Avengers. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright. And tonight, in this minute, you'll get to hear me talk about John Wick, because I forgot to yesterday.
Okay. Today we're talking about minute 134, which begins with the big A and ends with Iron Man's palm. Back on the show from yesterday, we have Andrew and Joe Darowski. Hello, gents.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Hello.
Oh, this is great. So we're wrapping up our pull out. We left yesterday's minute pulling out of the penthouse suite with Tony and Pepper as they're embracing. They've kind of shut their the imaging hologram down so that they can, just have a moment together. The camera pulls out quickly. We see all of the broken glass and everything on the patio outside. And we end with the A, the final piece of the letter that has been left at Stark Tower. And kind of a hint that, this A is, it might mean something. In fact, it looks awfully like the A at the start of the film in the title sequence.
Wow, you really Sherlock this.
I definitely do remember like being in the theater and people being like,
It gets people excited, the idea, because during the fight, and let's be honest, when you were watching the film and the letters started getting knocked off, were you thinking that this was where it was going? You're like, oh, I see what they're doing here. Or did you piece any of that together? Because obviously you're in the middle of a fight sequence.
I mean, my memory, we're reaching back a decade, but my memory is that
I know.
I did not piece it together until seeing the A here in this last shot, which I think definitely does work as a last shot.
There's a chance that I was thinking about it, but I could not say with certainty whether or not I was like, they left the A, didn't they?
I like to think that I'm bright enough to have made that connection, but who are we kidding?
Yeah, I would not have been able to piece that together at all. It's just there was so much other stuff happening with all of the destruction and everything. I just see things are getting blown up all over the place. The fact that some letters fell down, I would not have pieced together that they were very purposefully planning to leave the A. And it is a nice surprise, but I also probably did have that happy eye roll, we'll call it, at the end. We're like, oh, they left the A.
I noticed watching this minute a couple of times, they have like a sound cue as the camera backs past the A. There's like a swooping noise or like a whoosh. I think it's good. I think I like it. I don't think it's ever stood out to me except in watching like the single minute multiple times. But I'm intrigued by who decides to put a sound effect like that in. I guess the implication is like it's the sound that the cameraman is experiencing as he flies backwards. Because like we haven't been hearing diegetic sounds in this sequence, right? We didn't. Like were there even like beeps or like sounds from the blueprints?
At this point, it's pretty much been MOS. We're just experiencing the score and watching kind of the montage of shots. We'll call it a montage because again, they don't cut together properly.
Right.
No.
But of Tony and Pepper looking at the blueprints. Yeah. So I think to your point, that's an interesting one. The idea that they're very purposefully adding kind of a subtle swoosh sound in there to give us that emphasis.
Yeah, it's like pay attention to this thing. It's in like second 2 of the minute, but there is like a little whoosh sound to imply like, oh, you're flying past something.
Yeah. It's one of those sound cues, and actually I'd been watching this so many times, but I wasn't paying attention to that. So I'm glad that you actually called that out because it does speak to the nature of the team. And who knows if that was something that came from the director or the sound designer had that idea and pitched it and they went with it. It's one of those things that somehow got in here and just gives a nice little extra punch to when that letter shows up. That subconsciously we could go, oh, this is important.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it reminds me of? John Wick.
Here it is.
Let's hear the connection here.
Tell me more.
I just have a wee correction or addition to make. I don't think we talked about this, Andy, but when we just saw the pan up as they were talking, or the tilt up as they were talking, and you see them on top of the bridge. And I wanted to say, if you look down a little bit lower, you can see them shooting John Wick, which is not true, but it is the same location, Bethesda Terrace Fountain in Central Park. And I love the idea that on top of the bridge is do-gooders, and on the bottom of the bridge is assassins. That makes me really happy to think about, and I wanted to make sure I added that because we should have been talking about it a lot for the last several minutes every time they actually go to the bridge.
I will say, amongst the do-gooders, there are 2 assassins.
That's an excellent point. This is what connects the MCU to the John Wick cinematic universe.
They're checking their watches because they're waiting for that clock to finish ticking down so they can start chasing him.
Yes.
They're just going to hop off the bridge and go.
Yeah.
That would be actually a wonderful Easter egg, is if they just open a drawer in one of their homes and there's a gold coin in the junk drawer.
Oh my gosh. In the junk drawer.
That is a great addition. Okay. Well, I'm done with that. Thanks.
Well, thank you for including that.
You're welcome.
Very important. Very important.
Shout out to MCU Location Scout. Very handy.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a nice little wrap up to the film that we have here with the Avengers Tower, setting us up for where we're going to have as kind of a central hub for our films moving forward.
Well, I think for essentially a few scenes in one film.
Okay, all right.
And then they move to the hangar. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Which is one of the things that it makes me sad about. I mean, we talked about it a little bit previously. The flow of these movies, just by the fact that they're movies and not comic books, they're not cheap to make. They're not serialized in the same way, and so you don't have the constant flow. There's actually relatively little that we get in some of the core. A core environment like Avengers Tower. And the implication by the next film is yes, they've been living here for a year. And it's I never see any of that.
Yeah, they moved on.
Yeah, it's very difficult because you'd almost have to, in all of the films leading up to Ultron, when we're in those films, they would be having scenes in their room. Right, as they would go back home and crash for the night, and they'd pass Steve in the hallway as they were going off to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
But Steve lives in DC.
Yeah, it's when he's here. I don't know. It's one of those weird things where none of it really. I guess their area. Yeah, it's what are they for? Is it only for when they're in the middle of a battle? Do they stay here?
Well, it's they have a room whenever they're in New York. They have a place to stay, which seems like a weird thing to invest in if you're Tony Stark. But really, just get an Airbnb.
New York real estate's cheap. It's really nothing.
Especially penthouse space is super cheap.
Right. Wait, what was the monthly rate on the 23rd floor in the building across the way? It was over $1 million a month
for a month.
And you can just hold that for your buddies in case there's gonna be a game night
for all those people that you
party room
for all the people that you've met once and don't even necessarily like that much.
Yeah, right. Eventually have some serious fights with, right?
I know in Ultron, they imply that they go on at least half a dozen missions together, working out all the stuff that, that leads to the beginning of Age of Ultron. And so, clearly they do have interactions. And so I guess, oh man, are going on missions, is that their weekend game nights? Where it's come over to the tower, you can stay in the room, and it's like a beach house. And it's we'll do a couple missions, and then you can go back to whatever you're doing.
Right. Where we actually hang out and play Call of Duty. They actually go out and shoot stuff.
So they do it on holiday weekends. I can get there Friday night, but it's easier if I get there Saturday morning.
Well, this is why their movies are so sparse, because it's hard to, if it's just 2 people, it's so much easier getting together. But if it's 6 people, working those schedules together, it's real nightmare. Yeah.
I've not done very much of this, but my understanding is this is a theme of D&D campaigns. Is trying to coordinate the schedules of six individuals who all have their own lives and adventures going on.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
Tony's sending out a when is good link.
Yeah.
I've got some intel. Can everyone just let me know when you're available in the next 2 weeks? We'll get together and we'll take care of it.
Right.
Right. sending out what's the app that you use to like people can put when they're available, and it's like,
I've always seen one is good.
Calendly.
Yeah,
right.
Avengers.calendly.com.
It's like, okay, well, we can do it if everyone if one person can't come, we can still do it. But if two people can't come, then we got to wait.
Right. Makes it hard. Let's talk a little bit about our alternate ending to the film. I want to talk a little bit about that. We have some credits here, but I want to talk before we get into that. I want to talk about this alternate ending. We have been talking over the course of the season about this original plan that they had with Maria Hill, where at the very beginning of the film, we see Maria Hill in this session with the World Security Council a few days after the attack, the Battle of New York, and they're kind of questioning her about everything that happened, and there is this real sense that she has this antagonism toward Nick Fury, that she didn't feel that he was making the right decisions. Later in the film, there's a scene where she admits that she's the one who told the World Security Council that he'd sent the Avengers in, things like that. And all of that has been removed, but we've kind of had a sense of something going on with Hill. Like she and Fury, at times it seems like there's still kind of an antagonistic relationship between the two. It's been interesting. This is the conclusion of that. We have a scene back in this room where she's talking to the World Security Council. A number of different faces. Jenny Agutter is the only one that remains the same. Len Cariou, interestingly, plays Gideon Malik, and definitely a face that people might recognize, but got replaced by Powers Booth. But it's really kind of this long conversation between them and Hill where she's admitting that they made mistakes and she also made mistakes, and Nick Fury is the only one who saw them as the actual heroes they were. And then she has this whole thing where she reveals like, oh, and by the way, your attack on New York, yeah, we kind of recorded that whole thing. We're S.H.I.E.L.D., we do that. And then the wall comes down and we see, oh, we're actually at the meeting, the table in the bridge. And Fury knew about all of this, and the two of them are kind of having this chat, and it leads into that final conversation of the two of them on the bridge in the helicarrier in our last minute. It's an interesting little scene, but the way that it wraps up, and I guess, Pete, question might be for you first, because we've been talking about all of these. The way that this scene plays out and it wraps up with Hill kind of really being on Fury's side, does it seem like she always had been on Fury's side, and this was kind of some setup that the two of them had to kind of pitch it this way to the World Security Council, like, hey, and by the way, we've been recording you? Does this kind of like defeat the entire purpose of everything that we had before?
I actually don't think so, because in my head, when you put these two sequences together, as they would be without being broken up by an entire movie, what you get is a sequence for her where her mind was already changed before she started the interrogation with them. Like, you can tell, to me, she was an antagonist, but given the events of the movie, she has changed her thinking, and she's telling the story sort of from the perspective of her emotional journey with Fury, even though we now know that she's already on his side again. And that, I think, is a really interesting way to do it. It's like we jump into her thought process, not necessarily the action. And again, it gives her more substance and meat as a character, which we have been longing for throughout the movie. So yeah, to me, I don't necessarily think it's any sort of an emotional rug pull for her character. I think it really is, we get to just see her play it out for us.
Yeah, so for you two, Andrew and Joe, I mean, you hadn't been with us with all those conversations. I don't know if you had seen any of those deleted scenes or alternate scenes, but how does it play for you coming in and watching it now?
When you like described all of that and then like asked the question, so what, like, is she making up her mind in this moment or anything like that? It seems like before the events of the movie, she was questioning Nick Fury. And by the end of the events of the movie, she's all on board. But the Security Council has not been aware of her shift. So she was on the, like they were counting on her. And then now she's saying, oh, by the way, like all this stuff, she's presenting a lot of confidence to basically like say, I'm out, see ya.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's for the first time announcing her confidence in Nick Fury. And I think it also plays as the first time she's saying it out loud for herself. Like, nope, I'm going all in on Nick Fury here.
I suppose you can read it that way, especially at the very beginning where she's kind of in that state where she's kind of lost in her own thoughts, thinking about things. And it's like that snap when they are calling to her, like, Agent Hill, and she kind of snaps out of it. Like she had been, I mean, essentially they're bookends. And so the entirety of the movie essentially just like played out through her head. And now she's coming out of it going, yeah, maybe Fury was right all along.
Well, and the way, since I haven't seen the other scene, my assumption would be like she's made the decision before having this conversation with them, but not since the last time she had a conversation with them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're in violent agreement.
But I haven't seen the other scene.
I was going to say, I feel like it was probably the right move to cut this. That was kind of a long, slow monologue that probably would have felt like a drag after we kind of already had our denouement of, Loki being taken away. And to have a monologue of that length, I think it then followed up with another conversation with Fury and Hill, which we do have in the film. The pacing would have fell off, I think.
I would add to that it's like her standing up on the line, "We recorded you because we're S.H.I.E.L.D." is not maybe the power move that they maybe were thinking about in the writer's room. Like, yeah, we're also 2-bit blackmailers, S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, we're really awesome at our jobs. That's just like not a good message, and I think it was worth cutting for that alone.
It would have been like more satisfying if she was like really technical about it. And it's like, yeah, based on this law, we're able to do like a one-sided consent for recording conversations, and we've been doing all of that. I remember that from the Jessica Jones series on Netflix. She like kept saying like, "There's a one-sided consent for recording this conversation."
That's so good. For some reason, Jessica Jones can make it work. I'm not sure if Maria Hill could have played it. Well.
Yeah, right. Well, we also have lines that she says, like, "The Avengers were the mistake that saved the world." And in the scope of things, like when you say something like that, I don't know if it sells the film quite as well as you'd want it to when you're trying to wrap.
This was a bad idea.
We sure got lucky.
The mistake that saved the world. So funny. It's an interesting sequence, and I like. We've talked about this quite a bit over the course of the show. I like that this would have given Maria Hill a little more of a character arc over the course of the story. And you can see, especially having seen all these sequences, when you watch the film and then you watch Maria Hill and her interactions with Fury, you can kind of get this sense that she's not always trusting him. She thinks some of his ideas aren't that great, but she's kind of going along with it. And it would have kind of tracked as a more interesting arc for her character. As it is, she's never really had much of an arc over the course of any of her appearances in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's always just, I'm the gung-ho right-hand person here at Fury's side, and that's pretty much all she got to play. And so, to that end, for Cobie Smulders, I certainly feel for her that she didn't get to do anything a little more interesting with the character. But I think the point is well made. This really would have kind of slowed the end of the film down quite a bit.
Which actor do you think was more disappointed with what they ended up having to do in the Avengers film? Jeremy Renner or Cobie Smulders?
Yeah, right. No kidding.
Well, I think Jeremy Renner was given a lot more in the long term.
Yes.
Yeah.
One question about the end, he says, "How'd that go?" She says, "Sold you down the river, sir. I should have a job within a month." And he says, "Good work. You should maybe ask for a chair." Does that, given our conversation about the fact that Fury doesn't sit, does that line have more weird weight to it than maybe
I did catch on it as we watched it before recording. It's like, did we just talk about this?
Yeah, right.
Was this in our subconscious?
Maybe that's why the whole thing was cut, because they realized nobody has chairs except for the video game playing S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And that wasn't worth it.
Well, it's a weird, like, what does that line mean anyway? It's by having a chair, are you more powerful? Like, it doesn't make any sense because he doesn't have a chair. Like,
he doesn't have a chair.
Is he suggesting that he doesn't have a chair because they didn't, because he wanted one and they said no?
Yeah,
right. Or because she is somehow lesser than, because she would need to sit?
Or, what is it? Like, does Nick Fury not have a company credit card? Like, he can't go on Amazon and order an office chair if he wants
Get
it.
himself an Aeron chair.
Maybe there was a follow-up. You should maybe ask for a chair for me.
You're right.
I've been asking for years. They still haven't given me one.
Maybe you have some sway.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, so that's the alternate ending that would have kind of led to this finale here at Stark Tower. The film, our minute ends actually with the start of the credits. We have the pullout on Stark Tower, and then we shift with our music. We get the Avengers theme from Alan Silvestri, and the credits kick in. Directed by Joss Whedon. And this is like so many of the credits that they have. We have a start of the credits with like little animated bits before the actual scroll. And this is going to be kind of a series of images that tie in directly with characters, with our team.
All right, before we break this down, I have a question.
Hang on. I got to say, this is this might serve you well in the future. This is the part of the credits that my children call the special credits. Because on kids' movies, it's usually a fun song and like concept art and imagery from the film. And so they like to watch that before
boring credits.
They get to the boring credits
that
they don't want to watch.
I love that.
And so
special
these
credits.
are the special credits. Is this first portion of the credits.
Say you're in charge of the special credits for Avengers. Marvel has invested in multiple films leading up to here. What are some of the most iconic things you can think of to include in Avengers special credits? Like, which characters do you really want to sell to the public that this has mattered?
And let's just say this is a leading question because Joe has written an essay documenting the correct answer to this question. It doesn't matter what we say.
Like even just like in your head, like, okay, Marvel marketing in the year 2013. Who are they going to be promoting most? Would you guess?
Okay, well, clearly Stellan Skarsgård is a critical part of the Avengers franchise.
Yeah, wither Eric in this section.
The breakout feature of the Thor film. Honestly, he might be in this movie more than Thor.
I think we just saw a couple of minutes ago, we saw the big life-saving moment where Hulk, with his mighty roar, saves the life of Tony Stark. And that sequence has the big four. And we really, you would imagine, Marvel marketing would say, no matter what you think of the rubes, Hawkeye and Black Widow as puny humans, we would definitely want to rotate Cap to Iron Man, Thor, and Hulk at a very minimum leading the special credits.
These have been our franchise players.
Yeah, the ones who have had the films up to this point.
That's true.
Yeah, that's logical.
Maybe if you're going to undercut that minimum, then it's the big three, because that's in future films that's the battle with Thanos is a core three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you make some good points here. But what we get.
Well, Joseph, what's your answer?
Please commence the reading.
I mean, it's just surprising that Iron Man isn't like front and center in all of this, because that's been the core for Marvel's marketing. It's Robert Downey Jr. That's what started the MCU. That's really the anchor, I think, for a lot of the MCU.
He's had 2 films by this point.
Right.
But we're going to open up with the strap of Captain America's shield.
Okay. Weird choice. Okay. I'm with it.
Well, I think technically it's the edge of Captain America's shield into the strap.
Yeah, into the strap. Yeah, real long lingering close up on the strap. Then we got to get Black Widow's belt, which, okay, I appreciate that.
It's the cool hourglass.
And as someone who had a daughter who was, let's see, if she is 14 now, I would just say, I had a daughter who was a young daughter would want to go to the toy aisles at stores, and she was angry at the lack of Black Widow merchandise. So I do appreciate Black Widow being centered right here. So no real complaints. Then we are going to go back to the Captain America shield. Okay, another shot.
Huh. But we already had Cap, you might say.
Now we're going to get something. It's not clear what it is at first, but we're going to zoom out and spin around a little bit, and we're going to see we're on the Captain America helmet at this point.
With the wings and the A.
Yes, and with each one of these things
is so close that it looks like Batman. Actually, let's be honest.
Yeah, it does for a second. and with each one of these, you're getting the main special credits, right? Screenplay by Joss Whedon. You get your producers, produced by Kevin Feige,
director of photography.
And a lot of the names that if you watch MCU films, you see a lot of these names fairly frequently. And then we're going to go from the Captain America helmet to Captain America's shoulder and collar.
Yeah, the damaged shoulder and collar.
Yes,
and you can see the shield behind it.
Yeah, real long, slow
Yes.
spin on that.
Yes.
Then we get Thor's armor, which a great texture on that. No complaints on that being featured.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really cool. It looks battle damaged in interesting ways.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then we get a glowing red thing. Like, okay, wait, is this part of Iron Man? No, this is the sight on Hawkeye's bow. Is what we're zoomed in on.
Laser sight.
Another strange choice.
And then, okay, we left Hawkeye's bow. So what are we going to go to now? Okay, it's Hawkeye's bow again. All right, we're back on a different angle of Hawkeye's bow, but we're going to take another
starting on his handle.
10 seconds on that. And it's going to look like it is pointing at Iron Man's armor. Now we have gotten to Iron Man's armor at this point. And I think it is even after...
In the distance.
Yes. After this minute, so wait, I'm going to be leaving. We're going to go from the Iron Man glove to the Iron Man mask. We're going to go back to Captain America star on his chest. But then we are going to see Banner's glasses. That's how they're going to Hulk into this sequence is Bruce Banner's glasses are going to be lying there.
I'm trying to think through like the rationale for this, and I could understand them putting Iron Man last as the linchpin. Like Iron Man needs to be first or last, and the fact that he's not feels like a big mistake, right? He should be first or llast.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that
to signify his importance. And so if he's going to be last, then I can understand Captain America being first. And so I'm trying to walk through someone's thing. It's like, okay, we've got a lot of good iconography for Captain America. So let's lean on the Captain America. We got to get Black Widow in there early so it doesn't feel like we're excluding the female character.
we have one woman.
And I know they do like her like wrist.
The bites.
Yeah, when it's on each like the actors and actresses' names, that's when you get some more of these close-ups. So I think it's like Thor's hammer.
Well, that's the only time we get Hulk, is when we have Mark Ruffalo's name with the glasses. Yeah.
And so they're like, okay, so Captain America, Black Widow, so that we can represent our token female, and then Thor because he's at a movie. And then Hawkeye, because he's in this one. And then Iron Man last. And we'll get to Hulk eventually. But, his movie isn't even all ours. So
can't really center that one too much.
I will say that we do actually get Hulk a second time, but it's only his hand in the next minute. We have a hand,
and it's in a computer. Yeah,
in a computer screen, and it's for Jenny Aguter's name. Like, what a weird association. But I do have a theory.
Okay,
and my theory is this: it starts with a Google Doc that the credits editors were like, okay, we have all this iconography as we've discussed, and we're going to put in a table on the Google Doc, like, what does everybody want their name next to? And all the principal people chose Cap, and they had no choice.
I like this theory
because they had already, like, all of the name order is contractually obligated.
Yeah, that's the guilds have said we must have the producer here.
Exactly.
Yeah, right,
so when the producer says I want Cap, and then the writer says I want Cap, that's how we end up with Cap's collar.
Yeah, right.
It's a Google Doc.
Like, I don't mind Captain America being first at all, and I agree that Iron Man would have made sense at the finale. It's just so much Cap is like, as I was watching this minute, I'm like, what is going? Why are we on Cap's collar and the leather strap inside of his shield?
It's too much.
It is a very strange structure, and I don't know if I ever really thought about it until breaking the minute down. But I'm like we go Cap, Black Widow, Cap. Oh, and then more Cap. It's like, what is going on? It was so strange. I'm like, okay, maybe in later minutes, and Pete, this is something we'll have to just talk about as we kind of finish going through all of these. Like, do we start getting more of these other heroes? And, we've already kind of alluded to the fact that maybe not, but it is one of those weird things where it's just like, it just alludes to the fact that they kind of ran out of ideas for some of the iconography with some characters, because by the time we were seeing, like, this is Cap's shoulder, and it's just like, well, okay, I guess that's fine, but weird. Yeah. It's very strange. And then sometimes I'm like, because there are times, and we've talked about this from the beginning, because there are times with certain people and certain roles where what they do in some way corresponds to kind of what the image is, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like the writer, we're looking at, a computer or something like that. But none of that really, like there's no corresponding elements from one thing to another here. Like the director of photography, that might have been a time to show like Hulk's glasses or something, but no, that's when we're looking at the shoulder.
Hang on, I've got an idea for at least one of them.
Oh, okay.
Alan Silvestri, composer, is shown in juxtaposition to a drawn bow.
Oh, okay. Look at that.
Look at
that.
But that's a bit of a stretch. That's the best I got.
Okay, you did. A drawn bow is a bit of a stretch. That was nice.
I do enjoy Pete's theory that this started with people claiming, I want the cap. I just like the 3D animator like leaning back. Okay, let's see. We've got Cap's shield. That looks really cool. Okay, we've got a helmet. We've got the chest star.
I can do his shield at least twice.
What else?
There's a little shiny bit on his shoulder. There's like a safety
collar.
reflector.
Yeah. Right.
Because with Black Widow, we do get the red belt and the hourglass belt and the stinger. That works. Thor gets the armor, which does look cool, and the hammer. Okay, that works. He never wears helmet in this one at all, right? We never saw Thor's helmet.
Nope, never.
Yeah. So.
I feel like if that was the case, then somebody's regretting giving people the options.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
no kidding,
That goes
no
without
kidding.
saying. I think nobody gets options ever again.
It's like, I'm never giving them the options again. They're good. They're going to take what they can get. You know what? Next time we make this movie, everything's going to be like white marble. You're not even going to be able to see details anyway.
This is now like the one of all the things that we've talked about in this movie. This is the mystery I would love to have resolved is how the hell did they choose name associations with? That's it. I need to know this.
and the order too. Like it just all seems so weirdly scattered. Like they just pulled it out of a grab bag. Oh, we got Cap again. Oh, let's see what's next. Oh, Cap. It's a weird little thing.
And I have a question. With all this Cap stuff, is this the Cap helmet he's wearing in this film, or is this one from?
Let's take a look.
The shoulder doesn't actually look like this film's shoulder. I think
It does.
Okay. Well, it's the wrong.
Yeah,
it's a really muted
it's
color.
like
They went for the brighter blue in the film.
But it's got the reflective chevron.
Yeah,
and all of that.
Yeah.
I think that is the helmet from this movie. Because I think in the future movies, it's a little less like form fitting around the face. They try to make the helmet like really sleek in this one. And I think the later ones, like, well, he's going to take it off when he needs to take it off, and we should make it look more like a helmet. And so I think this one, that it's the one from this movie. Can I say, I don't actually like the Cap costume in this movie.
Oh, I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah.
This is my least favorite Cap costume.
It's a tough one. They going like the full comic book style was a little bit of a difficult thing to play well. Also,
I think this is some of my least favorite Captain America in the MCU.
In the Avengers.
Is in this movie. I think the writing of Cap in this movie is some of the weakest, because I'm not sure that this particular writing team is very good at sincerity, and Cap's got a lot of sincerity.
Oh, that's a very good point.
This is a snarky team, and Cap doesn't do snarky.
And the fact that the writing team doesn't do sincerity. That's one of the things that this movie truly lacks, like just across the board.
But then when you get like Cap and Winter Soldier, like, oh, I get this, Cap. It's not like the sincerity comes off weird. It's like, oh, make him sad.
Yeah. Right.
Like make him sad but sincere. It's like, got it.
And even when they're like reaching for some of, I mean, what they would perceive as like an earnestness within Cap, it comes a while, like they can't resist doing the joke. So like when Natasha says like those are gods, and he's like, there's only one God, ma'am, and he doesn't dress like that. Like, you're still trying to make him say a joke.
Yeah, and there's definitely been some of those points throughout the film. I mean, I think there are some moments, but I think your point definitely registers that there's a feel to him that may not work well in the hands of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Just to confirm, I did go back and look at a minute with his mask before it was torn off, and it is this mask.
It looks like this one.
Yeah, we do have that confirmation. I went through the crew. We have a lot of names here just to see. We've talked about a lot of these people over the course of these seasons. I was looking for which are some people who have not appeared in any of these conversations up to this point. The first of those names would be Director of Photography Seamus McGarvey, ASC BSc. This is his first and only film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Which I thought was interesting because a lot of these people, the directors particularly, when they latch on to a cinematographer, that seems to be somebody that they like to kind of continue bringing back for more of their films. But even looking at Seamus McGarvey's projects, I don't see a lot of things that he had done in the past with Joss Whedon anyway. A lot of times directors work with particular cinematographers, or they'll just look at their reels to find them. I don't know how he found how these two ended up working together. There is a possibility Robert Downey Jr. Had something to do with it because Seamus McGarvey was the DP on The Soloist. That was the Robert Downey Jr., Jamie Foxx violinist movie that they did together. Seems to work a lot with Joe Wright, though. On his films. So anyway, that's the first of our names that hasn't been talked about before. The second is the next one, production designer James Chinland. He's the one whose name appears on the space behind Cap's back. This also is his only film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I took note, that credit looks really good in the three-dimensional space. It looks like it's floating in that space, like kind of effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they don't track quite as well. Like it feels like it's moving not quite the way it should be from where it is, but his actually works really well where it is.
Well, I think Alan Silvestri is a great contrast because by where it is in the field of view, it should be sort of parallel to the head of the arrow, but it has that fake, the fake blur on it, as if it's on a different plane, and it doesn't look that way. It's not good.
Yeah, like the decisions, like when to blur things, when to not, sometimes seems to not be working well in the process of this.
Yep.
The next person who this is the first time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Lisa Lassick, one of our two editors. This is her first foray in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And after that, pretty much everybody has worked in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, either before or after. So this is, a lot, especially in the special credits. At this point, you're getting a lot of people who have already been spending quite a bit of time in this universe.
They were the ones on the Google Doc distribution list. Like,
yeah,
they were just
right,
easy.
Can't just be anyone. Get to claim, Captain America iconography.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Well, that's pretty much it. Unless you had any particular notes about any of these people, that's pretty much the end of our minute. Any last thoughts from anyone?
It's not specific to this minute, but I do want to say in my rewatch, it did stand out to me the care that was taken in these action scenes to often like give cool individual tracking moments to everyone, and it wasn't just a mass of superhumans punching other superhumans. I think there's something, they knew how special it was to actually like try and pull all these different tones together and try and present all these different characters that they had taken the time to introduce into other films and have them all actually together in the same space. And I don't feel like that care is always taken in action sequences in other superhero films.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a coherence to the actions and the interactions between the heroes. I think even in Endgame, there's like a moment I remember, and I haven't like really dissected it, but I think other people have taken note of it, where Ant-Man's supposed to be like working on the van, but then you cut to something and he's in the background and he's shoving a giant monster through a portal. It's like, wait, Ant-Man's not there. He's doing something else right now.
Yeah.
Wait, no. You have him doing something specific. He can't be in the background.
Right. It's that's, I imagine, even harder by the time you're getting to a film like that where you have
dozens and dozens.
I don't even know how many dozens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So many different characters to track.
And quite possibly like different effects houses doing things. And they're like, yeah, you can use these characters in this way. It's like, oh, that looks really great with him in the background. And then it gets cut together with a sequence.
Right. And then suddenly,
where it's like, oh, actually, that doesn't line up anymore. But you don't have the script supervisor covering all of the special effects operations that are going on to check for every fine detail.
and we've even run into that here, not specifically like with characters like that, but different situations that inevitably the special effects house and the supervisor probably was just like, it's a small difference from one thing to the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing that I remember we were talking about, it's like when Tony launches all those little tiny missiles out of his shoulders, the count on his HUD showed a different number of missiles than how many were actually in the shoulder.
And that can literally be different special effects houses.
Exactly. And it's like, is that the sort of thing that people are going to notice? Is it worth the money that it's going to cost to hire those people to go back in, change it, re-render it, all that? Probably not. It's just going to fly by on the screen so fast. Let's not worry about it. And again, it's only in this format of conversation that you're really breaking it down in such minute detail that you're going to run into those things. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's the challenge of making movies. I mean, even my son was watching on something on a video about Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, about one extra who it looks like they keep running past the same place over and over again because they cut from one scene or one shot to a different shot and the timing was just different. And so you have the same person running past twice. Mm-hmm. And my son, it's like, these are the things, like this is why there's a whole page on IMDb for every movie about all the gaffes that happen in the movie, because inevitably there are mistakes.
I've seen a video of that kind of thing in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie.
Uh-huh.
There's a scene where there's like a redhead in a purple shirt and they keep resetting her like constantly. And so like through this conversation, she keeps walking behind the same person in the same direction, even though that person's saying like progressing in the conversation. Like this extra keeps walking behind Willem Dafoe in the scene multiple times. And it's like, it's distinctive enough that if you're looking for it, you can start to find those things.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But it's like, wait, in that case, it's like, well, we have a limited number of extras to do background work for this. And so we're going to have them walk the same path multiple times.
Right. Exactly.
And that might not even be noticeable if they grabbed a different take. They might be doing multiple takes with people walking at different points. And so it's just a matter of the takes.
Yeah, exactly. And different days, too. I mean, coming back on different days. Okay, I think the timing was about here, and people are trying to remember, no, I was walking at this time, and inevitably stuff just isn't going to line up. So many cooks in the kitchen when you're making these things.
But I think that leans into what is so impressive when you get like some of those fight sequences, not just like the hero shot spinning around the camera, but there's also one really cool, like long kind of pseudo tracking shot where you see what every member of the Avengers is doing across this.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I love that scene.
Some of their interactions, like so much care. I dig it. Like probably literally thousands of people had worked on those scenes. At the very least, hundreds of people worked to make that completely fake scene seem seamless. As you went, as you went along, and all the special effects, and all the, just so much work to make that happen. And that's a level of care that I feel present in this fight scene. That even in other films that I enjoy quite a bit, sometimes the big fight scenes become just hordes of people smashing at each other.
And I think that was one of the special things about this particular film. We want to make sure we're highlighting all 6 of these people and making sure people recognize them all as part of the team. And it was nice. It was nice to see them do that. Put in that time. Absolutely. All right. Well, you two, it has been wonderful talking to you both about the Avengers. Thank you so much for joining us for these 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you for having us on. I always enjoy jumping on to break down minutes of superhero films.
I can't believe it's so brief.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, it's just these 2 minutes. But tell everybody again about your podcast and where they can tune in.
I'm the host of the Protagonist Podcast, where each week we talk about a great character in a great story, and that is hosted on the Dueling Genre Network.
And I do the production on that, but also I host Disney Animation Minute Essentials with my wife Kestra, where we cover Disney animated films 1 minute at a time.
Fantastic. Well, we will have the links for both of those shows in the show notes. Check them out. Lots of fun there. We will be back tomorrow to close out the week with Minute 135 and jump into more credits with everybody's favorite credit conversationalist, Tommy Metz III.
I wonder if he'll even watch the movie.
Well, he already did. We talked to him at the beginning of the movie. Remember,
That's right. He got through the whole thing.
He made through the whole movie.
Yeah.
But did he watch the credits? We'll find out
guarantee you
tomorrow.
he did not remember what this movie is about. I can't wait.
Oh, so much fun. Well, that's it. We'll be back then. So, Pete, thanks as always.
Tomorrow, Andy, I guess we get to find out if Jeremy Renner got hyper-realistic rubble on his Google Doc. Probably Renner for rubble.
Renner for rubble. Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Message to the World by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.